there, Femi. Okay, thanks so much for watching the stream. The last few days have seen so much political drama in Pakistan. Last week's Prime Minister Imran Khan tried to stop a no-confidence vote by dissolving the National Assembly. Let's just pick up at that point with a quick reminder. So I'm going to start on April the 7th, and that is when the Supreme Court restored the National Assembly. By April the 10th, Imran Khan has been voted out by the National Assembly, and his party, the PTI party members, they all decided to boycott that vote. But by April the 11th, Pakistan had a brand new Prime Minister, Shehbaz Sharif, was voted in by the National Assembly. So much happened in 5 days. How would you describe what is happening in politics in Pakistan right now? We asked Tahira Shahid for her explanation. This is what she told us a little bit earlier.
If you're to speak about the political situation in Pakistan right now, it's not very different from what it has always been. So basically, it's two political parties opposing each other, neither of them thinking about what is actually good for the nation or for Pakistan. But for just to, amass as many votes as they can, what they're doing is using these narratives which have always worked. One is using the religion card, and the other is using the anti-America narrative, making it sound as if there is some kind of foreign involvement that is leading to one leadership being replaced by the other, which is not true.
So that is Tahira's take. What is yours? If you're on YouTube right now, you can be part of this discussion. The comment section is live. Looking forward to hearing about your take on politics in Pakistan today. Hello, Saad and Umber Moise. So good to have you on the stream, trying to work out what is going on in Pakistan's politics right now. Saad, good to see you. Thanks for joining us. Please introduce yourself to our international audience.
Hi, my name is Saad Rasool, and I'm a lawyer based in Lahore and Islamabad. And I practice in constitutional law, write a weekly column in one of the leading English newspapers, and do a television show as well.
Well, thanks for making time for being on the stream. Appreciate that. Hello, Umber. Welcome to the stream. Please say hello to our audience around the world.
Hi, my name is Umber Rahim Shamsi. I'm a director at the Center for Excellence in Journalism at the IBA University in Karachi. I'm also a political commentator and have been a journalist for 20 years.
Good to have you. And finally, Maurice, good to see you. Please introduce yourself to our international audience.
Hi, Femi. My name is Abdul Moiz Jaffrey. I am a lawyer based out of Karachi in Pakistan, and I'm also a political analyst and commentator.
Thank you. Guess, I just did a quick recap of the last 5 days. Your heads as political analysts must be spinning. What happened? How did we get to Prime Minister Sharif? You start first of all. If you could explain it very briefly for us. How did we get here?
Well, first of all, let me tell you that Prime Minister Sharif, Shehbaz Sharif, who's the new Prime Minister of Pakistan, has been voted in for the first time. But this is not the first time that that Sharif family is in power. In fact, this is the fourth time over the past 30 years or so that Shehbaz Sharif, or previously his elder brother Nawaz Sharif, was in power as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. And the entire episode has culminated not only from a vote of confidence, as you explained in your introduction, but also through some involvement of the Supreme Court, and most importantly, perhaps, according to Imran Khan, the former Prime Minister, and his political party and supporters, the entire episode has culminated out of an interference, as he calls it, an illegal interference into Pakistan's sovereignty, in Pakistan's domestic constitutional structure, by none other than American diplomats. And because he's named it so we're free to talk about it. As it turns out, about a couple of weeks ago, Imran Khan, in a public rally in Pakistan, waved a piece of paper and said that Pakistan had received an official communication.
Saad, I'm going to just at this moment just say, let's see Imran Khan do that, where he said, foreign interference, the US is interfering with politics, they're trying to remove me from my position as Prime Minister. Let's go back to that moment. Let's take a look.
Whatever is the proof, I am showing everything. I am not going into further details because my effort always is to safeguard national interests. Efforts are being made to dislodge the government in our country via funding being channeled into Pakistan from abroad.
So what I'm thinking about, guests, is when we spoke to Tahira a little bit earlier, she said this is just politics as usual. This is how politics plays out in Pakistan. Amber, are you surprised? Are you shocked? Is this different?
You know, she's not entirely wrong, although I will say that the last 5 days have been something out of House of Cards, of Game of Thrones, Netflix, Pakistani version. You know, I think the sort of short summary that you gave actually did not encapsulate, could not possibly encapsulate the kind of twists and turns and drama that we've seen. The clip that we just saw of Imran Khan on 27th March, in which he waved this letter, he said at the time, and it turned out to be a cable that a diplomat based in the US had sent to the Pakistani Foreign Office, claiming that the US was interfering in Pakistani politics. In fact, he went further. He said that they were trying to affect regime change, remove Imran Khan, and threatening him with dire consequences. The consequence would be Imran Khan to be removed through that vote of no confidence, which is, you know, with an alliance of opposition parties. But, you know, there was breathless drama because when the vote of no confidence was filed, Imran Khan came out with his claim. Eventually, when the first day, when the vote of no confidence was supposed to be held, Imran Khan, the Speaker of the National Assembly, dramatically said that that he agrees that there was a foreign conspiracy. Imran Khan immediately, about 5-10 minutes afterwards, addressed the nation, said that he's sent an advice to the president to dissolve the assembly, and that was the end of that. So we had months, we had weeks of build up to this, and then suddenly it was all over. Within 20 minutes, I counted.
I'm just wondering, the people of Pakistan, did they believe that there's a foreign plot to remove Imran Khan? Did they buy that?
His supporters absolutely do. We saw that the day he was removed, which was the 11th of March, the next day on Sunday, there were, a large number of protests held across the country, particularly in Karachi, where I'm sitting, and spontaneous organic protests in the sense that there was no leadership present. And they were denouncing the US, they were denouncing the opposition, and I think very key, denouncing the military establishment as well, which I think is interesting. So his supporters definitely see this as a collusion between the US, the military establishment, and or certain, at least, quarters within the military establishment, as well as the opposition alliance.
Okay.
However, I mean, I would like to see polls on this, because there was a poll conducted by Gallup, which said that most people, a very thin majority, but a majority of Pakistanis, don't think that Imran Khan was removed because of a foreign conspiracy, but because of inflation. That may have changed now. I think a fresh poll or survey is due, but that's where we are.
I'm just looking, Moise, at some of the marches, the spontaneous marches that have sprung up and rallies in support of the former Prime Minister Imran Khan. So that's right here on my laptop. But I'm just interested in what Prime Minister Sharif said on Monday as he was accepting that new job of Prime Minister. I'm just going to play a clip because he was very critical of the previous administration. Here he is, and then I'd like you to immediately comment off the back of it.
God knows what kind of change this last government was, which destroyed everything, destroyed the economy, destroyed our society. Mr. Speaker, let me tell you that this will take years to make things better. And to make these things better, we need unity among us. If we are to unite, then with the grace of God, we will be able to achieve destination for our country.
I think what Shehbaz Sharif is pointing towards is that Imran Khan was inexperienced, that he had an inexperienced team around him, that he had a bunch of sycophants around him. He was nepotistic in his most critical appointments, which led to the economic crisis that perhaps would have come about anyway due to the external circumstances of Pakistan and its larger economic problems, but perhaps not as badly and not as quickly as it did. And Imran Khan wouldn't have been seen to be floundering as badly had he had a more competent set of people around him, or had he listened to the experienced people around him. I think just to add on to a comment that Amber and Saad have been talking about vis-a-vis the foreign hand and the conspiracy. Look, I think Imran Khan has played, regardless of how poor his prime ministerial term was, he's played this last month really well. It's been one of those few weeks where decades happen in Pakistan. And in this timeline, what he's squeezed in and managed to do is make our favorite villain, America, he's managed to make it his own villain to the exclusion of the opposition. And he's managed to bring in a conversation about how he was taken off the most powerful seat in the country, or supposedly the most powerful seat in the country, by the Americans without pointing to what necessarily that implicates, which is the military establishment. And he's left it to everyone else to infer that that's what he means. He's not crossing the red line. He's not critiquing the military directly.
Moise, and he's also been able to very successfully distract from the inflation, because we've seen since 2019, Pakistan's inflation has just steadily increased. In fact, compared to India, for instance, since 2019, Pakistan's inflation rate has increased by 38%. India's has gone by minus 19%. Food inflation in Pakistan is astonishingly high. And that's actually sort of the key. This entire sort of foreign conspiracy, the U.S. is involved, which is, Pakistan's favorite bogey. Let me just finish, Saad. But, this entire bogey, it's actually really successfully, and as Moise pointed out, very cleverly distracted.
Well, yes, it is successful, but Amber, you have to also give him, that the inflationary shock that he received.
I'd like to take the other side of the argument.
Let me give some space for Saad. Saad, go ahead.
Let me take the other side of the argument on this, both with Amber and Moise. The truth is that it's probably true that American interference in developing countries or developing countries, developed countries' interference in developing countries takes place all the time in terms of what the objectives should be, especially for countries that are in IMF packages. But the truth is that the cable that was shown by Imran Khan, the communique that was shown by Imran Khan, was not just a claim by him, not just a political claim by him. It was formally presented before something called the National Security Council of Pakistan that involves a large number of political leaders. It also involves the military chiefs of the Air Force, the Army, the Navy, and the Chairman Joint Chiefs. In fact, it was also presented, at least offered to be presented,
have you seen it,
before
Saad?
Opposition leaders.
Saad, have you seen it?
No, no. Nobody else can see it because it is covered under something called the Pakistan's Secrecy Act, right. and it can't be made public for diplomatic reasons. But key stakeholders within Pakistan, in the military establishment, in the Supreme Court, and the chairman of the Senate, have all seen it. It's been formally communicated to them. And a formal reply by the National Security Council, absolutely unprecedented in Pakistan, has said that this was in fact
I think that is what happened.
So without a doubt, are we all in agreement that there was some kind of US meddling in what's happened in Pakistan?
There's no doubt about that.
No doubt from Saad. Amber, do you have any doubt? Because then I'm going to move on. Do you have any doubt?
I've had questions because a number of diplomats, very senior diplomats, have actually called this entire cable gate, as it's called, or lettergate in Pakistan, as it's called, into question.
All right, so Amber has doubts, and I'm going to move on, because I'm not going to dedicate an entire show to a piece of folded paper that none of us were able to see in the video.
Exactly.
So let me just ask Moise, just very quickly, do you have any doubt before we move on? Do you have any doubt?
I don't doubt that it was a motivator, but I don't think it was the primary motivator.
Right.
However, if the US had not been interested, had been interested in Imran Khan continuing, this process would have been much harder and perhaps would not have happened right now.
I would love to spend an entire show talking about a cable, but I am not going to. I'm going to move on to Uzair, because Uzair is concerned about the people in Pakistan. It's the economy, stupid. How many times have we heard that? This is what Uzair is saying about new problems, new challenges for Pakistan regarding food security. Have a listen, have a look.
Pakistan is also facing a wheat crisis in the coming months, meaning that the government will have to import wheat at a time when commodity prices are at record high levels. All of this means that inflation is going to rise in the coming days, weeks, and months, potentially eroding popularity for Shehbaz Sharif and his government, which has come in with a mandate to rescue the economy and improve the situation for Pakistan's ordinary citizens.
If we were thinking about the average citizen in Pakistan, how are they managing right now? Is it perhaps the economy or the poor economy that is fueling this disenchantment with the previous Prime Minister and his administration?
Well, survey after survey, poll after poll in the last 3 years has shown that Pakistanis are worried. They're worried because their purchasing power has reduced. They're worried because, as I pointed out, food inflation has steadily increased, and compared to the region, compared to India, it's very, very high. In rural areas, which is quite surprising because you'd think that they're close, farm to market and all of that. I spoke to a couple of people in Karachi while all of this was going on before the vote of no confidence. And I thought what the average Joe, the taxi driver who's earning a decent living, but not enough, obviously, which is why he's double jobs. What he said to me was, I like what Imran Khan says on the international stage. I think he represents Pakistan well.
Let me push you.
I would vote for.
Let me push you a little bit, because Imran Khan, for the moment, is not Prime Minister. So let's shape this conversation for Prime Minister Sharif. What is the burden that he has taken on? What is the challenge he has to take on? Because Imran Khan right now, what can he do?
It's gone.
Yeah. Let's move on.
He can't do anything. And then I think that's actually the biggest challenge, where we've seen that the debt has increased. I think the last government of the Imran Khan government accumulated more debt in its last 3 years than the last 10 years of the last two governments. We've seen that while exports have increased, which has been positive, imports have actually also steadily increased. The currency has lost value in the last few years by about 30 to 40%. And, ultimately, it's the inflation that's biting people. Obviously, there are factors that Imran Khan or the last government could not help and dealt with as best as they could, which is COVID-19 and the global supply chain problem, which you can't blame them for. But the problem is that a lot of economists that I've spoken to say it has actually been the mismanagement of supply chains within Pakistan. So we are an agriculture-based economy. We've had to import wheat and we've had to import sugar. And none of these things were fixed. So the Sharif government
not only did we import wheat, we actually spent a 6-month period in which we exported wheat and then imported wheat. There's been a lot of supply chain mismanagement, and it's been farcical almost.
I think the bigger challenge. I think the bigger challenge.
Yes, Saad, go ahead.
I think the bigger challenge for the Sharif government, while the structural economic issues that Pakistan faces in terms of inflationary pressures and in terms of unemployment and global chain disruptions, supply chain disruptions, is going to be true in Pakistan as it is in so many other countries. But I think the larger problem, the more fundamental problem that Shehbaz Sharif's government is going to face is going to be a lack of public confidence in the ability of the Prime Minister and its government to be able to spend money properly, because you have to recognize that Shehbaz Sharif's government is from a political party that was just about 4 years ago convicted by the Supreme Court in cases of money laundering, not the political party itself, but his brother, who was earlier the Prime Minister. And even today, as we survey the overseas Pakistanis, who form a large fragment or a large section of the remittances that Pakistan gets, we've been hearing all sorts of reports about people not sending money to Pakistan from overseas.
Saad, let me ask you this, and I'm going to YouTube because I've got lots of interesting thoughts and comments here, and I'm going to ask you guests to respond very briefly, instantly, in fact. So this is Zindabad. Imran Khan is the person who was elected by the will of people, while Sharifs are the mafia, these are not my words, who are ruling since 30 years and bring nothing good to us. Lots of chatting, and that brings nothing good to us. All right, quick response, please.
I think Imran Khan's constituency has always been the kind of people that watch Al Jazeera and comment on its pages. And I think Nawaz Sharif's constituency is more urban, more peri-urban.
There are lots of Imran Khan fans on the YouTube. I definitely agree. Yeah. Yes, go ahead.
Exactly.
Shehbaz Sharif's government would have a far larger majority and perhaps wouldn't have even let in Imran Khan's government had it not been for the pre-election meddling that got Imran Khan where it did. And as far as the Pakistani diaspora is concerned, it is absolutely ridiculous to suggest that overseas Pakistanis will now not send money back to Pakistan the vast majority of money remitted to Pakistan is remitted by baseline workers who earn money for the upkeep of their families. They work in the Gulf. They send many billions of dollars, but they send it as baseline remittances to their families, which otherwise would not survive. The kind of people who can comment on Al Jazeera and say stuff like they will not send money back, they are less than a single percentage point in the entire Pakistani diaspora abroad. And it will not count.
Maurice, you're absolutely correct. I'm going to push on guests because I want to bring a few more thoughts in from our audience because they've been listening very generously to you. So as Maurice, as you suggested, we have a lot of pro-Imran Khan thoughts in YouTube, but also this one from Wali. He says this is a fair change, that the new Prime Minister Sharif is a fair change. PTI never even won the 2018 elections. Again, opinion. They won 31.8% of the vote, and etc., etc., etc. So there is some balance there in terms of who is supporting who. I want to bring in one of our Al Jazeera producers because she really kind of focuses in on the division that is in Pakistan right now. So Prime Minister Sharif, that coalition government, has to deal with that. How will they do that? Let's have a listen.
One of the things I think that everyone is thinking about and everyone is talking about it is about how social media platforms have become battlefields between PTI followers versus the other party's followers. And they have become very difficult to be able to have these conversations because they end in mudslinging, insults, and calling each other names. The leaders today who will be taking Pakistan forward really need to address how Pakistan is going to be healed. Collective healing that we have to do as a society, because how bipolarized it is right now makes it very complicated for wanting to evolve democracy and wanting to make it a better society as a whole.
I have 3 minutes left and 3 guests. Perfect equation. All right, Maurice, this next year, what does Prime Minister Sharif do to bring Pakistan together? Is that possible?
No, I don't think it's possible to do anything other than show a brief flash of what he can do if he is voted into power properly and if he doesn't have to abide by the People's Party as someone who is propping up his coalition, which is entirely possible. The PML-n in survey after survey is the most popular party in the country. I think the Sharifs would not have stepped into this role right now had it not been for how much they feared what Imran Khan would do in his last year vis-a-vis their personages, vis-a-vis their personal criminal issues, vis-a-vis their own electorates, and vis-a-vis the nominations to the top posts in the military. I think they realize this is a minefield they have inherited, and I think they realize that it's going to be unpopular what they're going to do in the next few months, because petrol prices will need to be jacked up, which will lead to further inflation. There isn't too much repair work that he can do, and the People's Party will masterfully put all of the debris of this onto the PML-n so that they can't come back looking very fresh in the next general elections.
All right, Amber, the next, I don't even want to do the year. Let's do the next few months. The last 5 days have been so traumatic. Go ahead.
Well, I'm afraid that the divisiveness that the last few years, between Imran Khan's Pakistan, Tehreek-e-Insaf, Pakistan People's Party and PML-n, in particular fueled by the sort of framing that Imran Khan has made, which is good versus evil. I am the state, l'état c'est moi, is essentially what he's declared, which means that I think the agitational politics route that he's taking and the sort of messaging that he's doing is not going to heal anyone.
All right.
It's going to get intense. It's going to get ugly. It'll be difficult for the new Prime Minister.
Tense, ugly and difficult. All right. Last word to you, Saad. Former Prime Minister Imran Khan, prospects.
I think that everybody, or a lot of the people in the state structure, are underestimating Imran Khan's street power currently. We saw a couple of days ago, in fact, according to international media, about 10 million people came out on the streets of Pakistan. I think the future election probably belongs to him. Right. And the causticness of politics in Pakistan has been a two-way street. It can't be blamed on Imran Khan alone. I think PML-n and other political parties have had just as much to say.
Thank you, Saad. Thank you, Amber. Thank you, Maurice, for helping us analyze what is happening in Pakistan's politics right now. YouTube, appreciate you as well. I will see you in the next episode of The Stream. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.